because you don't see anything for a little bit, and all of a sudden you have this huge stadium, and I'm like, what the?
Hi, good evening again. And thank you for being here for the pre-concert talk for our final performance. I am going to just briefly introduce you to all three of the people on our stage right now. Starting with the man in the middle, David McCormick is artistic director and founder of Early Music Access Project, the ensemble you will see later this evening. Charlottesville, Virginia-based performing arts and educational organization through which he curates imaginative early music performances, develops educational initiatives, and works to expand the historical narrative of the genre. David wears many hats in addition to this one. He is executive director of Early Music America, the professional organization for our genre, which is how I have actually first met him. He is artistic director and founder of the Brooklyn, New York-based medieval ensemble Alchemy. Filmmaker, along with Stephen Brouillet of Rock and Reel, Monticello's Black Fiddlers, which the fortunate among you saw in its premiere screening yesterday afternoon at BLEMF, and absolutely. And he is a 2020 and 2026 fellow of the Robert H. Smith International Center for Jefferson Studies. Moving over to the right. World-renowned professional storyteller, character interpreter, and teaching artist Sheila Arnold currently resides in Hampton, Virginia. Since 2003, through her company, Histories Alive, Sheila has provided storytelling programs, historic character presentations, Christian monologues, dramatic creative writing workshops, professional development for educators, and inspirational motivational speeches at churches, libraries, schools, professional organizations, and museums in 36 states. A sought-after historical consultant for museums and exhibit designers, she helps to develop engaging stories from historical documents, artifacts, buildings, and the historical use of land and water. If you meet Sheila, you will understand immediately why she is so successful at her chosen craft. Her warmth of spirit, her ability to connect and engage deeply shines through, as you will this evening see and enjoy. I like that part.
I like that part.
Benjamin Irvin, associate professor in the Department of History at IU, is a social and cultural historian of early America and the United States who works primarily in the Revolutionary period. His 2011 book, Clothed in Robes of Sovereignty, The Continental Congress and the People Out of Doors, published by Oxford University Press, examines the material culture and ceremonies of state by which Congress promoted armed resistance and independence. Central to this study are the many ways that the American people challenged Congress and its vision of the United States. His next book, tentatively titled I Still Have an Independent Spirit, concerns masculinity, disability, class, and citizenship among veterans of the Revolutionary War. Ben is also author of the essay Defining Early America, found on page 7 of your festival program. If you have not yet given it a read, please do. It's a really wonderful and valuable framing for the festival we are about to conclude this evening. I give you Sheila, David, and Ben.
Wow, wonderful.
Welcome everyone to this Saturday evening performance. Thank you for coming out on such a beautiful night. I'm pleased to welcome to Bloomington Sheila and welcome back David. Members of our audience who attended yesterday's premiere of David's new documentary film, Rock and Reel, learned a great deal about the Black Fiddlers of Monticello, including members of the Hemings and Scott families. But in this evening's performance, the Early Music Access Project is going to carry us in a different direction, blending music with storytelling from Monticello. So my first question for you both, Sheila and David, would you please tell us, how did this collaboration come about? How did you first begin to imagine playing music and telling stories in the same performance?
I'll kick this off. So I had been working on the music from Monticello, and This is during my first fellowship at Monticello. I ran across a magazine, Virginia Folklife, that had a translation of some stories that had been told by an enslaved nursemaid at Monticello, and they'd been translated from French. And I was a little bit confused by that, and Sheila will probably explain more about that later in the program, or maybe now. At any rate, I immediately saw an opportunity to blend storytelling and music. And this is something that Early Music Access Project is all about, collaborating with folks who are engaged in other disciplines to create really rich performances that can be enjoyed in a variety of ways. And so I actually, I had to ask around a bit, and I knew one storyteller at the time. And he put me in touch with Sheila, and we hit it off right away. You want to say any more?
No, because I have this thing, so I don't need that.
Is
that right?
Two different mic
Oh,
systems.
we still use this mic? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We're
so
double mic'd.
I'm double mic'd. Okay, so I thought I was, I was more than that, but that's okay. We connected, and we also connected because of Niccolo. And so he had asked somebody else about some storytelling, and they said my name. So two of my friends suggested my name, and so he contacted me. And I read the stories that were in this article and immediately went, oh, but I know that story. I know this story, or I know a version of this story. It's not quite like that. And I didn't understand why he didn't want me to tell that story. He decided it was another story, which sounded a lot like a Brer Rabbit story in the way it was told, except it was told with the inflection of it being in the 19th century, 18th century. So instead of Brer Fox and Brer Rabbit, it's Mr. Fox and Mr. Rabbit. So definitively different from what would be coming later, but the storytelling not too much different, the ability. So that was very exciting to be able to be a part of that, and then to work with these amazing musicians and having that happen. So,
Well, let's talk about storytelling for a moment. Sheila, if I understand correctly, you studied African American and African history at UNC Charlotte.
that's correct.
And you worked for some time at Colonial Williamsburg as an educator and an events manager.
And as a storyteller, performer, and a little bit of a historian. Yes.
How did you gravitate to storytelling? When did you first feel that calling?
Gravitate to storytelling. Well, how did I gravitate to storytelling professionally? That's really what the question is, because storytelling has been a part of my life and growing up. I grew up with personal stories being told around the table all the time, knew them all the time. And then my parents read a lot and encouraged us to read, so I was always reading about folktales, fairy tales, and any other stories. And then when I had a child, I had my son, I started telling stories, and I thought that's what everybody did with their children, was told stories and made up stories. I learned later on that was not correct. And once one group of people heard me, they passed my name on and on and on and on. And eventually I got to Colonial Williamsburg, and they hired me to do behind the scenes work, and then I did storytelling there. And they paid me when I got to Colonial Williamsburg. So I thought I was hot stumping by then. But then in 2003, God opened a door and said, it's time for you to go out and do this. And so since 2003, I've been performing full time.
Tonight you're going to tell stories that were once told at Monticello. Who told these stories to whom, and how have these stories come down to us?
Okay, so who told the stories? There's some conversation about who told the stories, which is, I became a fellow actually researching this, who told those stories. So I thought it was Ursula Granger, who was a wet nurse for the daughter of Thomas Jefferson. I thought that was who it was, and quickly found out that couldn't be who it was, because she died too quickly it didn't work out. And because these stories were written down, I suppose that's where I need to begin, is these stories were written down by Thomas Jefferson's granddaughter. And she wrote that down because, like any good author, she was going to author a book of her memoirs, and she decided to include Negro stories as well that she remembered from her mammy, and I don't know. Okay, so that's where we have these stories come from. They come from her having written down. 2013, as my good buddy reminded me, a book that she was going to write was found in 2013. Think about that, y'all. It's a long, long, you know, that was, I mean, the time from when she wrote that to when we got to see that. And so she wrote these stories down and kind of told us kind of who it came from, but not exactly. So we have a couple of people to choose from. We know it's not Ursula Granger. Could be possibly Ursula Granger Hughes, her daughter, or could be Pricilla Hemings or Pricilla Hemings, yes, related to Sally Hemings as sisters. It could be one of them because they took care of the grandchildren coming up. So not exactly certain, and it could be a variety of all those people, and they're being told that story through lots of different ways. Does that answer, did I answer your question in the longest possible way?
And,
Yes.
and what stands out, two things stand out. One is that all of the potential storytellers you listed are women.
Yes.
And all of them are enslaved by Jefferson or Jefferson's descendants.
Absolutely.
And they are living on the grounds of Monticello in close proximity in many instances. Is that correct?
Monticello, and where's his other home? Is it Edge Hill? Or
Poplar Forest?
Well, Poplar Forest is his other home, but it would have been Edge Hill.
Edge Hill.
He ran into the Randolph.
Yes, which he read. So that is a combination of. And I just want to think about it. We don't know who it may have been because it may not have been one just person. They are taking care of children and doing other stuff. And for those of you who have taken care of children while you're doing other stuff, you're just trying to find a way to entertain other children, the children, while you're doing other stuff, which you might be like, okay, if you sit there, I'll tell you a story so I can finish baking this bread, or I can finish cleaning this thing. So she's hearing these stories from probably a variety of different, most likely women, and then probably from some men too. But it's mostly one of those like, just be quiet so I can tell you the story.
Now, for those of us who might not have visited Monticello, what would the space, can you paint us the scene for us? Where would these conversations or these stories have been told?
Am I still talking?
You can?
Would you like to talk?
I could try.
Go ahead. There you go. They need a break from my voice.
You can correct me if you think
Okay.
I'm wrong about this.
I will.
But, I mean, this would have been in the house in Monticello, yes. And I mean, I think that's just the answer. It would have been.
So in the domestic spaces within the household, I wondered too. I believe when I watched your film yesterday, I learned about a space where they were adjourning on Mulberry Row one afternoon to hear music, and so I wondered about the possibilities. And I admit we're freely speculating.
Yeah. So that's not. I don't think that's the place for the stories, but it is the place for some of this music transmission. And we know this from, oh gosh, whose memoirs? Well, at any rate, one of the enslaved folks at Monticello wrote a memoir and mentioned that he had heard Jefferson's brother, Randolph, play frequently on Mulberry Row amongst the enslaved. And this was remarked as being something quite unusual, but it does give us this really wonderful clue about the music between the white and black residents of Monticello, you know, having some transmission back and forth.
And if I might add to that, yes, the stories are being told there. The stories may not be the Jeffersons or any, may just be in that community, but certainly, without a doubt, those stories are being told and passed on. And that is why we think it may be several different people able to tell those stories. Because they heard, and they may have told it, I'm certain this woman here will tell the story one way, and then this man over here will tell it and might forget a particular point or think of it differently, and it gets just twisted and turned just a little bit each time it's told.
Now, I've read a few of the stories. You forwarded me some literature, and I've read a few of the stories that Ellen Wales Randolph Coolidge who would have been Jefferson's granddaughter, she recorded late in her life, and I was astonished at how fully they anticipate the later compilations of Joel Chandler Harris and the Uncle Remus tales, and you alluded to those earlier when you mentioned Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox. Many of the defining characteristics of early African American literature may be found in these Monticello stories. They function on multiple levels as simple narrative, but also as allegory and morality tale, for example. And so, Sheila, would you please tell us a little bit about the stories that we will be hearing this evening? How did you choose them, and what should we be listening for? What may we expect?
Okay. Well, the one that was chosen for me is the one that was the main one. It was Mr. Fox tricks Mr. Rabbit, and Mr. Rabbit gets, Mr. Fox tricks Mr. Rabbit, and Mr. Rabbit tricks Mr. Fox in return. And that is just, I mean, it's as basic a folktale as a folktale can be. It has animals inside of it, the animals speak. We hear as Mr. Fox, Mr. Rabbit, rather than Brer Fox and Brer Rabbit. And there's the trickster element that comes in there. So that's a great story there. You're gonna hear one called The Magic Pot. And I will say that The Magic Pot is the one story I could not find a connection to any African story or any other culture story, which makes it very interesting to me. It makes it its own standing story that does not connect with any other Magic Pot stories that I could find. It's delightful, and we'll talk a little bit about that during the presentation. And the first story, Mama Dinah and Her Dogs, is the story that got me excited. That's why we're telling it, because there are so many versions of this story that are being told in different cultures, in different ways. And this is, for me, very exciting to see that I know this story has like moved and grooved and been all around and changed and added something and deleted something and gone to different spaces. But some things stay the same. One of the things that stays the same is that it's 3 dogs. And there's a listing under Ursula Granger Hughes that Thomas Jefferson makes. He documents everything. So there's documenting how much bread he's giving out on this particular time in 1810. And he mentions warmly Ursula, his wife, their 3 children, and the dogs. I got excited about that as a little nerd. So I don't know if it's like the dogs from the stories, but it was kind of fun to have that little moment to feed me. That was really what it's about.
Now, I have questions about the music, but before I turn to them, I just am fascinated by the storytelling. I have one more question. What do you, Sheila, imagine to be the role of the storyteller? Is it interpretation? Is it acting? Is it something else? And perhaps to come at that question from a different direction, I'm curious to know, is every retelling of a story different? Does it have its own energy? Or do you find yourself sliding into a groove where you know exactly how this particular story should be told?
Ben is really making me have to work on this one. I just want to tell him right there, right now. So for me, a story is like music. I've watched musicians who play the same music, but there's something about the environment at that time, something about the air, the audience, and it changes just a little bit. Storytelling is very much the same way with me. So the audience may change how I tell the story. The call and response as I'm doing it. The time of day will change. So my stories tend to be a little bit different every single time. That's the reality of it. If you've heard me tell this story already, do not fret. It will not be the same that you heard today. The guys tonight, I went and reviewed the story again. They're not going to hear the same story, and I just practiced it with them. So it always has a little bit different, always changes. And I think that's what story is supposed to do. It changes with the people. It changes where you're at. And that is an important thing. My story will continue to change until I've told it about 50 to 75 times. And about 75, I got it to where it kind of stays the same. But then I get tired of telling it, and I put it away. And or if I write it down, then I get tired of telling it, and I put it away. So, but then I have to resurrect it years later and go, there's a new life in that old story.
Now, question for both of you.
Okay.
There's very good evidence to suggest that music was a critical component of these stories as they were originally told at Monticello. Will you tell us about that, please?
So one of the most exciting finds in this manuscript is some blank staves of music. Sadly, she didn't write down the melodies, but she made a clear indication that part of the story was sung, and she even says so. She says they were sung like an aria, right?
That's right, that's right.
And we are taking the bits that are meant to be sung, and Sheila is singing them, and Ben and I are going to accompany that singing. So this is a singing storyteller, and we have the proof right there in the manuscript, which, as a musician, this was the moment where I was like, oh, this is the perfect marriage of storytelling and music.
Now, David, between the stories that we will hear this evening, you and Benjamin Hunter, who we met last night, will also perform a variety of songs, including traditional works and other 18th century melodies. These include, I suppose that should be some 19th century melodies as well. These will include some wonderfully evocative titles. Polly Put the Kettle On, for example, and my wary favorite, Duck's Eyeball. Will you please tell us about the songs you chose for us this evening and why you chose them to accompany these Monticello stories?
Yeah, so I'm attempting to give you kind of a cross-section of my musical research here. So some of the songs you will hear are songs that we know the Eston Hemings band played. So Eston is one of Jefferson's sons with Sally Hemings. He went to Chillicothe, Ohio, formed a band with a clarinetist and a cellist, and we know for sure 3 songs that they played. I then reverse engineered the rest of their repertoire based on a lineage of string bands in Chillicothe, Ohio that I found in a newspaper article from 100 years later. A very helpful man gave me a complete lineage of string bands in Chillicothe, Ohio for the next 50 years. And some of their repertoire matched what I had found in the Monticello music collection, thousands of pages of music in that collection. And then we know about the Scott family fiddlers. These are cousins of the Hemings, and newspaper articles outline at least 10 pieces that we know that they played, and so we're doing some of those. But then I wanted to really look at the larger tradition of black fiddling and find clues in other places. So you're going to hear a piece called Snowdon's Jig. This is from the Snowdon family band. They wrote some of their own music, and this is one of the pieces that they wrote. And they were active in Ohio just as Eston Hemings was leaving Ohio for Wisconsin. So they might not have known each other, but they're in that same kind of sound world. And then there's a duo from the Piedmont region of North Carolina, Joe and Odell Thompson, who lived, I believe, into the 90s. And their repertoire gives us a really interesting clue about the unbroken tradition of fiddling in that region. And they taught everything that they knew to the Carolina Chocolate Drops. I bet you know that name. And so we have recordings both of the Thompsons and of the Chocolate Drops, and now Rhiannon Giddens and Justin Robinson have released recently a recording of more of those tunes, which they recorded in the open air, just like one take and out. And we're doing 2 of the songs from that album, and it's been really exciting to just kind of approach the tradition from that other direction.
Now, I saw on the program, there's a song by Jonathan Woody. Is that an original composition?
Yeah, and so this is why I asked Miss Sheila to do Mr. Rabbit and Mr. Fox, because I knew, I had a friend, Jonathan Woody, who's an amazing composer. I bet many of you have heard him sing. He's also a brilliant baritone. I knew that he could write the perfect music to accompany this story, and that it had the potential to be a real classic. We've been describing it as Peter and the Wolf 2.0 or something.
Afro-American style.
Yes. And so we've kind of taken the story in chunks, just the way they do with Peter and the Wolf, and provided accompaniment for each of these sections. And we got an opportunity to work directly with him. He came the premiere of that work and worked with us. The original piece, I should say, is for 5 musicians and storyteller. We're doing it tonight with just 2. He gave us permission to pare it down. You're going to hear all the notes, but you're going to miss out on the clarinet, I'm afraid.
Can I say something on that, Benjamin, just in that piece? So one of the exciting things as a storyteller, I don't get a lot of music to be in all the stories. Sometimes I have it. But I have the opportunity to tell the story. He wanted me to tell the story. That's what David wanted. Tell the story and give the story to me. And I'm like, okay. So I told the story on video, and I shared it with him. He gives it to Jonathan and says, now that you have the story, you decide what music should be in the story and where, and develop that music. And he said, give me suggestions of where you think might be a good place to put music at. And so I gave him that. And then they had been practicing. All these musicians have been practicing. I had been practicing with them. I get there to be with them, and I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Okay? I'm just like, I think I hear the story. But I hadn't told it yet. So I get up on stage with them, where the first time we've ever all done this thing, we're just practicing. We're all on stage, these amazing, wonderful musicians, and I am stunned. And so I start the story, and they're supposed to play. They do the first play, and then I start the story. And I stop when I'm supposed to stop, and there is nothing coming behind me. Because they have all stopped, because we're like, oh, because they had never heard the story. So they complete.
I want to correct the record on that. We were in awe. We knew to come in. We were just flabbergasted with what we were hearing.
It was, and I'm sorry, and then because I heard the music, then it changed the way I told the story. I see that we're almost off our time, but it was amazing because then they played the music, and I went, oh, like you're going to see something at the end that only came because the musicians were doing it, and it changed the way I told the story, and I could hear how he saw the story in the music. And then I changed the way I told the story. It was amazing.
Well, so that's such a wonderful story, and forgive me. And it makes me so excited for what we're about to hear. We're almost out of time, but I just want to ask, and you've almost just touched upon this. Thinking broadly about your collaboration and about your performance this evening, what would you say we gain most by playing music and telling stories all together?
I think we have a richer and truer picture of what art, the art of music and story is. Art and music are always together. They're in and out. When you hear really good music, someone likes to tell a little bit about it. And, let me tell you about this story. I heard this story when. I like this story here. They like to share about the story, and the story can mix. Or, this song reminds me of, let me tell you. And it should be that way. We should not, and the only thing we're missing is the square dance, okay? They all had square dance, and they're like, but it's the dance that goes along with it. The moving a little bit. And tonight, let me tell y'all, even y'all who are live streaming here, y'all need to move a little bit tonight. I know we in a church and everything, but we're gonna have some music that you should move with, that you should feel. And I want you to feel that, and then hear the stories and feel them as well. Don't let it just come in and sit. Let it come out and be.
What a wonderful place to end. We're out of time. I have so many questions I could have asked, but the time has gone swiftly, and we should give our performers a chance to go freshen up before the performance. But please join me in a round of applause for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to be on stage.